You are watching another episode of ShaneSolomon Meets, brought to you by the Cornwall Channel. I'm your host, ShaneSolomon, and today I'm meeting the wonderful Paddy Paddison. So, Paddy, it's been a long time coming to get you in this studio. We've spoken about this.
That's true, yeah.
But I'm super excited about this and having you in the studio because you come with great credentials, a hell of a CV. You're doing amazing things right now. You are the Chief Technical Officer at Wildanet. The team at Wildanet are doing amazing things. The growth is amazing to watch. You're doing just so much. But where does it start for Paddy? I mean, what's your kind of background in?
What's my background? I suppose my trade is from the military. I did 12 years with the Royal Cornwall Signals, sort of specialising in electronic warfare and surveillance, which is exactly like what we do now, obviously, in no way whatsoever. But after leaving the army, I joined Cabletel, which became NTL, which is now Virgin Media, when they started doing the cable rollout in the mid to late 90s. So that's sort of my grounding in what we're doing now. And then in between, so I have quite a low attention span, as you probably find out from all the things I've done. And then in between going over to Athens to put in a submarine cable for their Olympics and trying to put in a wireless network there, but it was too polluted and too noisy in RF sense to be able to do that. Then having a games company making massively multiplayer online games, and then having a company that put cameras onto the Docklands Light Railway and underground trains so that they could see live pictures while the train was moving and things like that, which was quite innovative then.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in the sort of mid-2000s, saying, me and the wife said, we'll get a little shop and retire to the seaside in Plymouth, which I'd never really been to before, and then spent sort of 10 years having a little news agents, just at the time when corner shops and that started, dropping down. So
sure.
We expanded it out to delivering milk and fruit and veg and all sorts of things. And then Ian, who I'd worked with on another project where we were doing RFID tags back in the day, gave me a shout. So, how are you doing? And could you give me a hand with a 1 gig circuit I want to put into this school in Cambridge? I'm like, you don't really need my help for that. That's quite a simple thing. You just call up Openreach and they'll sort it for you. No, you need to come and see me and do that. And he's living up in near Bedford. I'm like, sure, why not? I've not seen him in ages and I like him and Jane. And so we'll go up and see him. So we go up in the camping car and stop nearby and go around. And there's Barry Deadman there, who was a sales guy at NTL, and Charles, who we'd worked with on the RFID project as well. Okay, what's happening here? So we were talking about how Ian had been down at Goonhilly putting in a wavelength, a large telecom circuit at Goonhilly, and how every Airbnb or B&B he'd stayed at had no internet, like no internet. Not it was rubbish. And it was like, what could we do about that? We could do something wireless. That would be a thing. We could, use a wireless access network, which is sort of radio is kind of my first love when it comes to it. And what a good idea, Paddy. It was a ruse, obviously. And so when we were at NTL, we'd had this project called Rural Networks in Partnership. And NTL had actually brought a submarine cable up from Sennen Cove up to Bristol.
Okay.
And we'd gone to all of the councils because they were separate councils then. There was like Helston Council and like that, to break out of this cable. And they weren't really that interested in high-speed data at that time. Electronic mail probably didn't use that much, was sort of their response to it. So in those days at NTL, it was bring in the money or move along. So there was no business there, so we moved along. But the RUNIPs, the Rural Networks in Partnership paper that we'd put in sort of stayed in our mind. And so the initial thing that we did with Wildanet, which was called Vergis originally, up until we met somebody who actually did marketing and went, no.
That's right. Ian said this in his podcast, yeah.
She just went, just no. I'm like, okay, better come up with something. So it was rolling out a wireless network. So first we had to find I had to find the technology to be able to do that, the locations to do that. And it started off out of Goonhilly, and essentially myself and Ian going to the driveway. Right, there's a barn. and drove to that barn. I owned a RAV4 at that time, and Barry said he was going to give it a wrap. I thought like banners down the side with Wildanet on or something like that would be nice.
Yeah.
No, he meant fully wrapped. So my silver car became.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I was like, so when you're pulling up at the farm, it wasn't like, what are you doing? They knew what we were doing because it was all over the car. You bring in the internet, so yeah, but we'd like to use your barn as a base station. Wow. And this chap was saying how every lunchtime, him and his wife spent all lunch just pressing refresh on their DEFRA website to upload their milk stats. That was their lunch hour. So we, put in our system and obviously give them a free connection as part of that deal, and put a feed into the office above the dairy. They don't do anything now. It just happens automatically. So I suppose they're not talking to each other, but it saves that much time for them every week, every day. They change what they do, and that was sort of like, yeah, I'm up for this. This is going to be fun. And then driving through Gweek, I'm in my car, and Ian and Charlie are in the car behind me. And Ian Francis says, we should trial doing the system in Gweek. And I'm like, what, with these steep hills and these massive trees? No, anywhere but Gweek. He says, no, if we can do it in Gweek, we'll be able to do it anywhere. Yeah. So it was getting from Goonhilly back and then down into that valley. That was the next effort of fun. And that was the starting point of, right, here's a business. Here's something that we can do that can generate revenue, that has a future. Let's go. And that was sort of the start of it. So amazing. Short journey from 20 years ago, 30 years ago even to here.
One of my questions for Wildanet team members is always, and I guess that explains it. It's probably the best explanation. You're probably, from a technical point of view, the best person to ask, of course, about all this, but it becomes a bit more clearer to me now why the bigger players in the market, haven't delivered internet, fast internet, fibre to, the majority of Cornwall. And you think,
I thought I wasn't allowed to swear on it.
Well, you can if you want.
Yeah, so I mean, they build out a network and they have certain parameters because they're a corporation. You have this much money to spend to do what we call a passing, as in passing a premise, and it must generate enough revenue to make a profit. And using, once you're a big company and you've got all those big overheads and things like that, those prices go up and up and up. So the properties that you can reach are fewer and fewer. And there's, at the moment, the government is running the Project Gigabit, which is the final 20% of premises that don't have fibre to the premise, or gigabit capability to the premise is what we're interested in now. And that F20 has probably reduced from F50 in the last 4 years, as at the speed of the altnets running out. There's sort of, in the country, there are around 130 companies like, not as good as Wildanet, obviously, but like Wildanet, rolling out in different parts of the country. And they have changed the outlook for a lot of rural and sort of forgotten areas as well. Because when I'm talking to agencies like Ofcom and things like that, they're interested in coverage. But what's also important is capacity. Sure. When you're on your 4G wandering around, it's all very well having 5 bars, but if you can't get data down,
I'm getting that quite a lot, actually. And I won't name and shame my provider, but it's becoming more and more of a problem.
Yeah, and that's the coverage versus capacity issue. And you'll find that in town centres, and that's why there are companies like ours in the middle of London, because they're providing the capacity that the large providers aren't. Out here, it's both. There's neither coverage nor capacity. And it's for us, there was a massive investment in telecoms in the 90s when it was deregulated. This is that again, but this will be the last one. Once we get in this generation of network, that's probably it for the next 50 to 60 years in terms of telecoms investment.
Wow. And of course, at the core of your mission statement at Wildanet is all about inclusion, isn't it? No one should be left out.
Absolutely
of this, comms revolution, really, of high-speed internet. Because there's so many people that still, in these places that are not able to access it. It's unbelievable, really.
I'm working on stuff at the moment, and there were over 2,000 premises that aren't getting 30 megabits. And there were some hundreds of premises that aren't getting half a megabit. I don't know what you can do on half a megabit. That's a telephone. It's not the internet.
Yeah, sure.
So, it's shocking in this county how poor some internet is. And it's part of our job to make that go away, to change the economy of this county.
Indeed. Now, you've got a great team at Wildanet.
We do, yeah.
You've got a wonderful CEO as well, Helen Wild.
Absolutely.
We've been very fortunate to work with you at the Royal Cornwall Show. Now, let's talk about that. That is a testimony in itself, because you provided us with the live stream infrastructure for the broadband, which was amazing. I think we was on in the middle of a field, 150 meg. We was over the moon.
Oh, I'm going to speak to the guys of why it was only 150.
I think it was up, mind you. So we was over the moon, faultless stream over the 3 days. However, a lot of the other people around the showground were not happy, of course, because again, the capacity there through another company, we won't name names, just weren't able to provide the power they needed. So you guys really were the heroes, not just for us, but a couple other charities close to you as well. But hopefully next year, you guys will provide the infrastructure.
Yeah, we are talking to the showground themselves about providing the infrastructure. So, I mean, it was a PPP, prior planning and preparation, is what that's about. We knew that it would be difficult, and we were preparing for Cornwall Show maybe 6 months prior. So putting network in place and speaking to them about making sure we had the ability to get high-speed network into the site. So essentially we had about 300 megs available to us on the site, and we were able to. Apologies for my phone.
It's a technical thing. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's keeping it real. I like it.
Yeah.
We're not even going to edit it out, Paddy, because it's a technical, real life scenario, so it's fine.
Yeah, sorry. Network alerts go off all the time. I'm really sorry. Sorry, I've just lost my train.
So we're just talking about the showground, the infrastructure for next year, and you was pre-planning.
We had a chap come up and say, I'm not going to be able to do business for these 3 days. He paid £180 or something.
Yeah, it's near as 200 quid,
And he didn't have, it wasn't slow, it was just non-existent. And thankfully, Chris Temple, my network manager, went, well, actually, I actually put an extra piece of kit up. Well done. And we were using an AP that he'd put up just in case. And we were able to connect up the pavilion, all the bar around the edge of there, because he was going, I don't know what the young farmers are going to do when I tell them I can't, they can't buy beer. It's not going to be fun. So we helped out there, and Skinner's Brewery just up the way as well.
Yeah, we helped them out.
They were very grateful. Yeah,
they're very grateful.
And that was one of those. Yeah, sure, we can help.
Yeah.
But on the basis of I'd rather trade in beer than money at this stage, so that you're not coming to me, I've paid for this and it's not getting it. Sometimes it's good to trade in alcohol.
It certainly is. We make a few videos trading alcohol with Skinner's, funny enough. Well, look, Paddy, it's one of those ones where I knew the time was going to go flying by, absolutely flying by. And in fact, we're going to have to do another one at some stage, because there's so many more things I want to ask you. But is there any kind of closing comments you'd like to make? Anything that we should know about that I've not prompted you about? We're just going to talk about the 5G. We've touched on, capacity and everything. Anything you want to talk about?
Well, I suppose at the moment it's check our website, really. Things are changing, things are growing. And just because we've said we can't get to you just at the moment, please keep checking, because we are building and increasing our designs all of the time. The network guys are up to something like 40,000 premises in design right now. And 7,000 more every month. That's the sort of scale that we're running at the moment. Yeah. So keep checking with us, even though we might be able to not support you right away, but ultimately, we will.
And of course, I just want to say how great it is, because you're employing a lot of local people at the moment.
Yes.
I think at the last count, about 120 people. I mean, that's phenomenal during what we're going through at the moment as a country and even the world. So, Paddy, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming down and keep up the great work. You're inspiring. And so that's it. So if you know anyone doing anything remarkable here in Cornwall, we'd love to hear from you. Just drop me an email, shane@cornwallchannel.co.uk. Until next time, for myself and Paddy, see you soon.